Okay, we're up. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming on over to the Leon's Warning talkback discussion for the Long Beach Playhouse New Works Festival 2021. I am Madison Mooney, the executive director, and first off, if you're watching live, obviously live right now, as I'm speaking, we have the chat going on. If you have questions, comments, anything you want to hear us talk about in regards to Leon's Warning, please put that in the chat. And so while folks are thinking of those questions, let's go around and have everyone introduce themselves and how they were involved with the production. So, Rick, you're going to get started first.
Okay, hi, I'm Rick Reichman. I played Derek in Leon Warning.
Great. Next is Robin.
Hi there, I'm Robin and I played Leon.
And next is Greg.
Hi, I'm Gregory Cohen. I had the pleasure of directing the show.
And then next, Mark.
I'm Mark Plitman. I wrote Leon's Warning.
And then we've got Steven.
Hi, I'm Steve O'Lear. I played Teddy and the second detective.
And then at the bottom row, Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam Tang, and I played the Panhandler, Transient, and the first detective.
Wonderful. Thank you all for being able to make it to our talkback discussion. Excited to get it started. My first question, since we have our writer Mark Littman here. Mark, what brought this play to be? How did this happen?
Well, I wanted to put a face on the homeless. It's personal for me. I volunteer at a food pantry. A longtime neighbor is now living behind the 7-Eleven. She had substance problems. And then when I took the bus to work in downtown Los Angeles, I developed a quasi-friendship with a homeless man who camped out at my bus stop over some tense months leading up to a riot. So it's not an exact true story, but that's the genesis.
Inspired by real events. Yeah. And then Greg, our wonderful director, please tell our audience about your process, how with when you got the script and the rehearsal process for you guys.
Oh, boy. Okay. To be fair, the rehearsal process was the easiest rehearsal process I've ever had. It's the first stage reading I've directed for the Playhouse. The original director for this piece was not able to do it. And so Sean Gray, what's his title now? I don't. The artistic director, the artistic producing director. Is that right?
Producing artistic director.
Yeah. He called me because I've got a pretty good history with Playhouse. I've been there several decades. Anyway, and asked if I would step in. And I read the play, and I thought, this is actually a good script. So I kind of jumped at it and reached out. I've worked with everybody in the show but Robin, and that's only the beginning at this point. I'm looking forward to working with him in an actual stage production someday. And so we kind of rehearsed on Zoom. This was our rehearsal space here, with the knowledge that we would be actually getting a chance to actually get on a stage again and work with people in the same room, which is a very exciting prospect.
Yeah, we filmed on over the course of an evening up on our studio stage. Last night's show book club and tonight's show Leon's Warnings, the first kind of in-person acting that has happened in the building. We just with an online audience, so it was really great to have folks back in the building. And looking forward to the fall when we can hopefully reopen with a full production on our stages. So yeah, it was lovely to have people in the building again, and all vaccinated, and so all felt comfortable being around each other. For our lovely actors, can you anything that for your characters, anything that jumped out at you that you really enjoyed playing, or something that struck you, something that you anything about your character that you either really enjoyed playing, or something that you were surprised by with the script, with your in regards to your characters. Anybody anybody jump on it.
I'll say, since I played two different types of people without homes, I it was kind of fun, even though my time on in the script was very short. What's really fun for me is trying to give both of them a very different voice, and especially a different voice from mine. Whereas I kept my regular voice for the first detective, so that was kind of fun to be able to play three different characters.
Cool.
I think for me, I don't often do drama. A lot of my stuff is comedy. So a chance to get in and do some drama for a while was really cool. And as for Derek, he's like just a very angry guy. Has a lot of issues at home and stuff. There's he just has so much going on in his life. And then the kind of turn at the end where it's kind of like that Christmas Carol Scrooge moment, kind of, where he realizes, he starts to realize, things are not the way that they should be, and starts to change. And so I like that as well.
I love that comparison, a Scrooge moment. That's very fitting. That's a very fitting comparison.
Yeah, Robin has something to say.
Well, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful. This was something I never quite shared, but I found quite illuminating with doing this part. I have a family I grew up in a family with 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and one brother and one sister, my oldest brother and my oldest sister, who both went into the medical field. They were the first 2 outside of myself, or the only 2 outside of myself in my family to finish high school. And my oldest brother went on to become an EMT, and my oldest sister went on to become an LVN. Unfortunately, as is sometimes the case, in the environment that we grew up in, they got a little heavily into drugs, and that was kind of the end of both of their careers, and they both ended up being homeless for a number of years. And I was oftentimes driving out to Linwood to help them out. So it became an almost, if not daily, every other day situation where I'd go out there to try to help out. And I learned an awful lot about homeless people in regards to things such as, the decline in care for people with mental illness. I also learned a mindset that I saw in my brother, in that my brother, he'd been through an awful lot in addition to all of that. He had 2 marriages that didn't go very well, among other things. And one of the things I noticed whenever I tried to help him, to lead him into finding an established place to live and a way of just kind of getting things back in order, he would like to remind me that he was in the position that he was in because he was tired of the established way of the world. He felt an independence being out there. If he needed money, he felt that he could go, again, to a gas station with some newspaper and wipe off someone's windshield to get a couple of dollars. He would do things that he felt that he had control over, and that he had just given up, on the type of society that kind of helped put him there. And eventually, he was rehabilitated. He fixed himself up along with my sister, and they're living a pretty decent life right now in Texas. But that told me an awful lot about why people were homeless, and it kills that stigma about, people who, who just drop out because they're lazy, because they don't want to take any form of responsibility. There's so many layers to what makes that happen, and it's because of that that I use that in my life as a teacher. When I'm dealing with kids in South LA, I try to remind them that that they have, that every one of them has something that they have that they can do to contribute to other people, and that to show empathy and sympathy for anyone who is out there struggling, because it's not always something that's their fault. And that was and it's something I took from this, and I tried to insert into this to give him, make him just a person that that has his that has his space in the world. Thanks for letting me say that.
Thank you for sharing that, Robin. That's yeah, you're connected to this story. You're some of your family kind of lived this story. And yeah, what you were saying, and what the character of Leon, of wanting his own, not wanting to be inside walls, and all of that. That's definitely a real a real thing, a real choice that people can make. I want to talk about with in regards to Leon and Teddy, and the Leon and his hawk persona, or the magic. That's what I called it to myself, and I wrote it down, like the magic, or the that's involved with this story. Mark, is the with Leon and his hawk persona, and then with Teddy showing up, and with Leon kind of watching over Derek, kind of almost a guardian angel sort of presence. With what was your when writing this? Is it did you have a concrete idea of it is Leon can? I don't even know what I'm trying to exactly say. But can you just talk about kind of what your thought process is, and with the creation of this kind of the magic, or the spirits that show up in unexpected ways?
Well, Leon mentions that the drumming puts you in an alpha state. He also mentions not just boost, but shamans. And if you've taken shamanic workshops like I have, that's part of it. The drumming puts you in an alpha state, and you can journey with power animals. In this case, he has this image of hanging onto a hawk, and flies with the hawk. That comes out of the shamanic culture and so forth.
Okay. Cool. I didn't know anything about that, so I wasn't quite sure, if if it was Teddy, so thank you for explaining it. I thought it was a very cool.
Teddy showing up on his window on the 26th floor. I mean, there takes so many Xanax. I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah. Stephen or Rick, in regards to Teddy in that scene, when you guys were kind of, reading through and working on, working on that scene, like what were your thoughts on it, or what were your, how did you read it, and how did you think that, what was happening exactly?
Well, I kind of related a little bit to the character, because as Mark has, I when I first came to LA, I worked downtown at the music center, which is interesting because you did name the music center and all those places that I basically spent the early part of my LA life at. So it's very interesting. And I used to ride the bus. Also, I lived in Rampart area of LA, and I would ride the bus every night at 11:30 at night from the music center. And there was a homeless person that would hang out at the music center, and I would ride the bus with him every night, because inevitably he would be on our plaza, kind of, he had a puppet and he would sing these things, and then at the end of the night he'd pack himself up and get on a bus and drive, and I'd be on the same bus as him, and we developed a friendship, believe it or not, and a different kind of friendship, right? So I kind of looked at that character of Teddy as, it was a friendship, but it was a different kind of friendship. It was maybe an understanding at a different level than maybe a normal brother and brother relationship would have. So I kind of looked at it as kind of maybe an alter ego of him a little bit. But anyway, I thought the character was great. I think there's a lot. I think that character could be expanded. No, I'm kidding. But I think it was a great character to play, and I got to sing. And that was kind of cool too. So, but I did relate it to that. I tried to kind of fashion it to that relationship that I established with this homeless person that I had spent maybe 8 years riding a bus with. So I kind of try to vision it off of that.
Very cool.
I mean, yeah. For me in that scene, in Derek, I mean, he's obviously, it's in his head, but he doesn't, like, I don't think Derek saw it as being in his head. He believed he was actually talking to his brother. Because I mean, he's on like tons of Xanax, so. So, but I think to Derek, when I played it, I played it as if I was actually talking to him, because that was the only way I could see it actually happening. So especially when I tell him to leave out the window and then he's gone, and it's like, I got rid of him again, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you,
I
guys.
think there's a. I'm sorry.
Oh no, please go, Greg.
Jump in. I think there is a vast difference between Derek's hallucination in that scene and when he sees Teddy in the drum suit. That's a vision.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I don't. He doesn't. He mentions he doesn't talk to him.
Right.
And at that point, I think he's off the Xanax already, and it's seeing a vision or a ghost, and you're like, okay, I know he's safe.
Since we have our writer here, Mark, I know this was the first time tonight that you saw it all together, stage, in the stage reading format. Is there anything that kind of stuck out to you that, we do this process, this is a process for writers that they get to hear this version of their play and they tweak it, they see what works and what doesn't work. Is there anything that kind of, stood out to you tonight that you're like, you know what, I'm going to change this a bit, or I didn't expect it to sound like this. Anything like that kind of struck you tonight?
I took a few notes. I mean, there's some things that repeat a lot. I need to edit, but I like the salon type reading. I like that. I like the pacing of it and so forth. This type of play, though, ultimately, my wife was watching it too. And the setting is actually it's like a character. So, seeing if it was staged, seeing the increasing debris and everything else, and the anger on the notes and so forth, and the sounds and things would have been lively. But I really like the
elevated.
Like.
Yeah, unfortunately, our lovely narrator Liz was not able to join us on the Zoom tonight. But yeah, I think Liz did a wonderful job with all the descriptions. And because the setting, every new scene, it is there's more, and the de-evolution of Leon's clothing, it gets more tattered and his glasses are broken. That visual aspect, we couldn't capture completely with the stage reading, but definitely in a full production that would be a dramatic and I've lost all of my words tonight. I'm so sorry. I can't think of it would be an intense visual, and it would add so much with the words.
Great.
For our cast, again, we've got the writer here. When you have questions for Mark, like anything when you were reading the script or speaking, reading the words aloud, did you have a question for him, or about how about character arcs or anything like that. Anyone have questions for Mark?
I have a question. I know that this was kind of born out of your own experiences. Did you do any extra research on creating the characters?
Yeah, lot of research. I was a former reporter. I worked for 4 newspapers and so forth. So the journalist in me likes to do research, and there's lots of videos, Invisible People, and I talk to people, but I injected a lot of my personal experiences in it too. The most recent one, again, my longtime neighbor who's in her 60s, living behind the 7-Eleven. I mean, it's a real tough life, and they're, as Robin says, not everybody has substance abuse. They're there for a variety of reasons. And as my neighbor says, it's a really hard life. So I desperately wanted to put a face on the homeless. So I did a lot of research beyond my own experiences.
Good question, Sam.
I have a question actually for Mark. It having to do with what we were just talking about, with the progression of the homeless encampment coming in, and Leon's deterioration throughout. As a director, the first thing I look at is, how do we produce this? And there are so many vast changes between scenes that my concern, if I were directing this in a full production, is that there's going to be more time between scenes getting the changes done than the actual acting. And I was just wondering if you had considered making this a film, because I think it would be a really powerful film and more practical, I would say, than actually trying to produce it on a stage.
No, it'll make a great film. I think that was the concern I had with the progression there. Hopefully, we can figure out a way to quickly add bandages to him and breaking his stuff and so forth like that. You might need some extra props there that are broken that
Right.
you could quickly. Because you're right, you don't want too much time between scenes, because the audience loses interest too.
Right.
Yeah, so we'd have 4 versions of, certain props. The first scene
Right.
that it's slightly broken, then the fully broken, and then all of that. Yeah, that that adds up on the prop list for the prop master.
I mean, you could do some of it digitally with a digital backdrop,
You could.
or like projection. You could do some of that, at least with like the signs and the fences and stuff.
Yeah, because it is just the one set, with the exception of Derek's office. But yeah, if it was a screen background or something, that would be very easy to quickly
that'd be easier
quickly
to
change
do
up.
than trying to move sets and stuff. And a lot of the props and stuff you could probably put in the tents. The tents, I guess, aren't on the first scene, but as they come out,
Right.
you can have the tents and bandages in there, and then hopefully the actor can quickly work with that stuff.
Switch them out. Okay. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten any questions from the audience yet. I'm so sorry about that. And I was just so sad with watching this show tonight that I can't think of good questions. Last night was easier. It's a dark comedy.
Can I make a statement?
Please, Robin.
It's kind of a question and a statement, and it's to Mark. And Mark, I'm probably, as I usually tend to do in my life, I tend to overthink things. But what was extremely fascinating about this is, number one, for an actor, every single character in this play, as a person, has to step out of their area of comfort, which is something that all actors have to do. But with this in particular, there is a level of uncomfortability about each one of these people. And I found that extremely challenging. And just like Greg said, it was hard just to read. It's one of those things where you want to be laid out on a set, a grungy set and do all of this. So that was probably the toughest part about it, was just doing it from a reader's theater standpoint. And visually, again, just like also you said, from a film standpoint, visually it just has, so many possibilities. But to take a character like this and to turn him into Leon, into a character who lived the past life that he did, in the service in the Middle East, doing the things that he did, because being an intelligence officer is not clean work. I mean, it's pretty dirty stuff that you have to get into, and the fact that this hardened person in this position allowed this young person, this Yusef, to become, something, a part of his life, and then to lose him almost immediately in that tragic fashion. It killed him on the inside, and I mean, he refers many times throughout the play, through words and actions, that he was dead inside already. But one of the things I love about any show, it's a wonderful life type of way of thinking, in so many different ways of thinking, that being Jewish, I always love the concept of what's called Teshuva, which is the ability to just, take all of that was your past, and not make it who you actually are, and you can transform yourself to bring yourself back to the human being that you wanted to be, and to take someone like Derek, who he obviously, in talking about him, saw this individual in so many facets of his life, and saw someone that he felt that, as dead as he was inside, that he felt that before his life was over, he wanted to make, help someone along the way to discover their own, humanity, and not wind up as hardened as he was. And I know maybe I'm overthinking it, but there was just so much I felt in that fashion about what you wrote, and it was incredible.
You captured it, Robin.
I think it's an interesting point that you bring up, Robin, and I think I don't necessarily think that Derek has lost his humanity, but I think he has lost a lot of it, and I think a lot of it was in his brother, and I think when he lost his brother, he lost a lot of that.
That was lovely, Robin. Thank you for sharing that. I think that like what Mark said. I think that captured that character very well, and I think you understand that character very well. Because his whole journey and everything, it's impactful. So thank you, Mark, for writing a lovely story and impacting
Thank
folks.
You for the opportunity to present it. And all the actors and Greg, you guys were just brilliant. Thank you, Madison.
Yeah. Any last thoughts? Anyone else have anything to say before we wrap it up for this evening?
I will say something. Mark says it several times in the show, and I think, considering the year that we've just gone through, when it was almost impossible to do this, I think we need to make the effort to see each other. No matter what station we're in or whatever, we need to really look at each other and see each other, because that connection is super important. We felt that connection when we all got together in the same room, and it was a wonderful feeling. But just passing people on the street, I made a point of trying to look in people's eyes.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up tonight. Thank you for everyone who's watching tonight and anyone who watches this in the future. I hope you enjoyed Leon's warning. And if you have a script that you want to submit to our New Works Festival for next year, the deadline is June 30th. So head on to lbplayhouse.org and also check out lbplayhouse.org throughout this summer to find out about our reopening plans for the fall. So my lovely casting crew, if you guys can just wave goodbye to our lovely viewers, and we're going to be heading out. So thank you all. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.